First at 5:30, Iran making a show of force, launching missiles at an American military base in the Middle East. But it was more to save face than strike a blow. Good evening and thanks for joining us for NBC 16 News at 5:30. I'm Alan Matthews.
And I'm Gold Meadows. Iran answered Saturday's airstrikes with an attack of its own, firing missiles at U.S. forces in Qatar.
Now, President Trump had warned Iran not to retaliate, and in a post late this afternoon says no Americans were injured and Iran has gotten it out of their system. NBC's Monica Alba has the details from Washington.
Iran's retaliation is underway. Iranian armed forces saying it targeted the Al Udeid air base in Qatar after the U.S. bombed 3 nuclear facilities over the weekend. U.S. officials say they had been notified of threats against U.S. forces on bases in Bahrain as well as other countries in the Middle East. President Trump meeting with his national security team in the Situation Room this afternoon. A senior administration official confirms the White House made a last-minute effort to avoid those weekend strikes. President Trump offered to send Vice President Vance and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff to Turkey for talks. He was even willing to go himself. But Iran's supreme leader could not be reached to authorize a meeting, and the talks never happened. After Saturday's attack, the president had warned Iran about any retaliation.
Iran, the bully of the Middle East, must now make peace. If they do not, future attacks will be far greater and a lot easier.
2 officials telling NBC News that before the weekend attacks, Iran had warned the president if the U.S. conducted airstrikes on Iran, it could potentially activate sleeper cells it claims to have in this country.
We do have to take seriously the threat that Iran has placed inside the United States, teams of people who could go after soft targets.
Today, we're getting a look at those targets in Iran. Isfahan Technology Center taking a direct hit, and Natanz, a crater remains where a bomb fell. But it's difficult to determine damage at the Fordo facility, buried deep underground. And it's unclear where Iran stored its enriched uranium and if it was hit, though the administration is confident it was.
We have a high degree of confidence that where those strikes took place is where Iran's enriched uranium was stored.
Iran turning to Russia for aid, the country's foreign minister meeting with Russian President Putin and saying Iran will coordinate its response with Russia. Qatar has condemned today's attack, calling it a violation of its sovereignty, and the president continues to monitor the situation closely. He's scheduled to depart for the NATO summit in the Netherlands tomorrow morning. Monica Alba, NBC News, the White House.
Now, just about 2 hours ago, President Trump announcing on Truth Social that a ceasefire had been reached with peace between Iran and Israel coming shortly thereafter, saying, quote, "I would like to congratulate both countries, Israel and Iran, on having the stamina, courage, and intelligence to end what should be called the 12-day war." No confirmation of a deal from Israel or Iran. The Iranian government saying that they have not received or agreed to a proposed ceasefire.
Reaction in the community is mixed, with some supporting the airstrike and others asking if it was necessary.
But there's so many concerns, like I don't know which one to, I just can't, you can't focus. Every day it's something new. I've never been this much on the news where every day you wake up and there's something horrible that's happened.
Preventing Iran from achieving nuclear capability was probably probably the right thing to do.
Oregon Congresswoman Val Hoyle called President Trump's decision to make airstrikes on Iranian nuclear facilities an abuse of congressional war powers. I interviewed Representative Hoyle, and she shared concerns about what she says is a dangerous road for the U.S. to be on. Here's a snippet of that interview. The president promised no foreign wars.
Right. And when you bomb Iran, you're pulling us into another war into the Middle East. This is a military action that we were not briefed on. He didn't even bother to brief Democrats at all. We represent half the country too. And the president should be acting in the best interest of our nation. He said he wasn't going to drag us into a war, and here we are. My hope is that, again, Iran had a measured response, that we aren't going to see something different. Now, they have said that they have terror cells here in the United States. But do you know who's in charge, who the administration put in charge of overseeing our terrorism prevention? a 22-year-old who just graduated from college, who has no experience.
There were calls to impeach President Trump following the initial orders to strike Iran's nuclear facilities, this without congressional approval. So how valid of a reason is this for impeachment, seeing that President Obama has done the same thing?
The Republicans have control of the House and the Senate. A motion for impeachment will not go through. I am not going to waste my time on things that aren't going to happen. I'm extremely concerned, and I've signed on to a bipartisan war powers resolution. Again, every president has abused this power, and I believe in holding the president accountable. He's making his foreign policy declarations not in the way that you would want a presidential administration to act, right? Treating it with the gravity that it should be treated with. Instead, he's making announcements on social media, and that's just embarrassing.
Everybody heard those names for years.
And you can check out our full interview with Congresswoman Hoyle on our YouTube page, KMTR NBC 16, where she also discusses recent protests throughout Oregon and the president's big, beautiful bill, which is being considered in the Senate.